Hey guys, in this video we're going to be talking about Peloton, and this is a Peloton update video from my previous Peloton video that I did about 2 months ago. So this video right here, and in that video I gave out my whole thesis and reason as to why I decided to buy Peloton, and basically also showed some revenue data about Peloton. And so in this video, we're going to be talking about some of the news that have been happening around Peloton. And before we get into that, please, welcome back to Chibind Brothers. My name is Joel. Please allow me to ask you to hit the like button, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell, as it helps us with the YouTube algorithm to get our message to a wider audience. With that being said, as we're starting with Peloton, basically some of the things that we've seen with Peloton lately is, ever since I made my last video that I just showed you guys, is Peloton actually went into a massive sell-off, and this massive sell-off happened because of some of the news that Peloton was experiencing, and some of these news were basically based because due to the Peloton treadmill that had a couple kids that had some incidents and a couple injuries and I believe one fatality. This basically created the entire negative news around Peloton, and a lot of people were basically also scared, and they were selling off as the market was also selling off, and it pretty much just trickled a big chunk of growth stocks that were also selling off at the time. So then in this video, we're going to be looking into exactly what Peloton is doing about those treadmill. So as the news were coming out, Peloton was forced to acknowledge publicly that there was a problem with their treadmill and that they needed to recall the treadmill so that they could rework on them and make them much more safer. And so this right here says, though management said in its fiscal third quarter update that it expects its recall to lead a negative impact of 165 million in the fiscal fourth quarter, the company's guidance for 915 million of revenue during the period is still a huge jump over the 607 million of revenue in the company's fourth quarter of fiscal 2020. So basically, this is what this is saying here is that even though Peloton will be recalling those treadmill, which will cost them basically 165 million to be able to rework them and then send them back to their customers, but they will still be able to make close to $1 billion, $915 million in revenue, has a guidance for the fourth quarter of 2021, which is much higher than the fourth quarter of 2020, which was 600 million a quarter. And so next, as we're moving on to the next article, and this article basically kind of talks about the same thing as what we just spoke about, and also this 915 million will basically represent an increase of about 51% from its 2020 fourth quarter, which was about 607 million. And so now, as we are moving on further and to the next article, this is a Peloton announcement that they made, and it says, today Peloton announced plans to build its first US factory. After a rigorous selection process, Peloton selected Troy Township in Wood County, Ohio for the site of Peloton Output Park, a state-of-the-art factory that will be dedicated to producing Peloton's award-winning Peloton Bike, Bike Plus, and Peloton Thread starting in 2023. The Peloton expects to break ground on the site later this summer. Throughout the multi-year development, Peloton will commit approximately 400 million to this facility. So what is this going to do? In 2020, we saw that Peloton had issues with their supply chain, as their demand was exponentially increasing, but they couldn't meet the demand because there were some issues with the supply chain. This was all these things, basically due to the pandemic that we had in 2020, and this basically disrupted the supply chain, and also because Peloton's manufacturing capacity is outside of the US. So it made it much harder with all of the shutdowns that we had last year for Peloton to be able to meet all of their demands. And they have a huge back order. And so here it says, we are thrilled to bring a good portion of our manufacturing to United States soil and proud that it will be in the great state of Ohio, said the Peloton's CEO and co-founder John Foley. While we will continue to invest in our Asian manufacturing footprint as well as our existing facilities in the US via our Precore site, the new Peloton Output Park gives us a massive strategic lever to make sure we have capacity, quality, economies of scale in our bike and thread product lines to support our continued growth for years and years to come. We are incredibly excited to meet and welcome the Troy Township community into the Peloton family fold. So basically this will allow Peloton to be able to manufacture these products, the bike plus and the thread here in America. Not just that, it will help Peloton to be able to increase their capacity and being able to meet their demand in America much faster, but it will also create just over 2,000 new manufacturing jobs in America. So this is also good for the economy, and all of this stuff basically makes me very, very bullish on Peloton, and I still believe that Peloton has much more room for growth. So now we're going to be jumping into the Peloton's revenue, and as we're jumping into the Peloton revenue, and this is a letter from the Peloton CEO, and the letter says Q3 ending connected fitness subscription grew 135% to over 2 million, and paid digital subscription grew 404% to approximately 891,000. Total members grew to over 5.4 million. This also includes the app users. So then Q3 total revenue grew 141% to $1.26 billion. Guys, this is crazy. Or we can say 1,262 million. That's basically $1.2 billion, or approximately $1.3 billion. Q3 connected fitness subscription workouts grew 239% to over 149.5 million, averaging 26 monthly workouts per connected fitness subscription versus 17.7 in the year ago period, right? So guys, these numbers are showing that Peloton is still growing much faster. And here they have some of the charts that's basically showcasing what's going on here. And since Q4 of 2019 all the way to Q4 of 2020, we saw that there was it literally doubled over this time. And then from Q3 of 2020 to now, we see that it more than doubled in terms of the connected fitness subscriptions. And then when we look at the quarterly revenue, the last time when I made this video, when I made a video on Peloton, the last reports that we had just had was at here 1.6, and then in total revenue was $1 billion. It was the first time that Peloton made $1 billion in one quarter. And then now, as the new quarterly report just came out not that long ago, Peloton for the second time made over $1 billion in revenue in Q3. And here, as we can see, the difference between Q2 and Q3 was it's more than $200 million in revenue. That's showing how Peloton is growing. And so earlier we were talking about the Peloton recall, and the recall costing them about $165 million. So that basically $165 million will be basically cutting out of whatever money. For example, like Q3 here, if we cut $165 million, that would bring them much lower into the close to $1 billion. But then, you know, also due to maybe some other operating stuff, and and I also know that Peloton are trying to invest more into marketing. So basically the forward guidance for Q4 is about 915 million. So that will be a small drop from here, but that still makes me bullish, because when we compare that Q4 of 2021 to Q4, whatever guidance that they're giving us of 915 million, it's not concretized yet, but it's a guidance. Compared to Q4 of 2020, it's still a 51% increase, as we showed earlier. And then when we move on to the connected fitness workouts quarterly, we see how the workouts quarterly are still increasing exponentially, guys. And then the monthly one, we saw that after Q4 of 2020, it kind of slowed down and then started going back up again. So, you know, all these things really makes me realize that, you know, maybe Peloton will not be able to, double within the next year or whatever. But when you look long term, the next 2 to 3 years or even 5 years, Peloton will be trading at much higher than it is right now, and I'm willing to hold all this time. So then, now let's go into a little bit of technical analysis on Peloton. So when we look at this, I have in blue my 50 moving average and in white my 200-day moving average. As we can see here, this red support that I've traced here is a long-term support that is a strong support. And we can see that Peloton came to test this support multiple times. The first time here, the second time, the third time, and then the fourth time. That's when we had all the negative news and the market was also a lot more weaker, and we saw much more weakness in the tech stocks, the growth stocks. And this is where Peloton basically went all the way down to about $80. And as Peloton was going down to about $80, if you recall, the last time I made a video on Peloton, I had just bought a stake of about $500 at the time. And when Peloton was going down here, I had it in about $267. So right now, my total in Peloton is about $767. And ever since then, Peloton has been recovering. Guys, what we really want to see here is we want to see the price of Peloton, these candles, to open and close above this 200-day moving average, because that will be showing us that we are potentially looking at potential reversal. And that's really important, because ever since then we saw a daft cross here, is because we saw this 50 moving average going below the 200-day moving average, and then the price also goes below the 200-day moving average. That right there is a daft cross. But Peloton is recovering. We need to see these candles above the 200-day moving average. That will be that could also present a really good trading setup, but we're not really going into that because this video is about investing. So now I would like to bring up my M1 Finance account. And as I'm bringing up my M1 Finance account, as you can see down here, guys, initially when I invested, when I did my first video on Peloton, I invested about $500 at the time, and now I'm in about $767. So I did add in an extra $267 when Peloton was going lower. And ever since then, you can tell that I'm up about $137, which is basically making me at a total of about $905 from $767 that I invested. And so that's what I wanted to show you guys real quick. And with that being said, I'd like to say thank you. And if I provided you with enough value in this video, please allow me to ask you to hit the like button, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell. And please don't forget to get your free stocks with our Weibo link in the description below, or $30 with our M1 Finance link in the description below. And if you want to invest into the cryptocurrency market, you can use our Coinbase link in the description below as well. With that being said, I'd like to say thank you, and I'll see you in my next video on Sunday. Bye.